Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. And welcome back, everyone. It is officially Earth Day. If you're watching a pre-recorded version of this, it was Earth Day when we did it. Perfect timing to embrace our planet and the Earth and plant the seed and see the sprout grow. And yes, that would be Jack Sprout. Wonderful children's book. We're going to talk with the author today. He shared so much insight within our ecology system, our environment, in terms of the writing of the book. Great characters, but also a message and some education in terms of what's going on around us, the things we take for granted, i.e. our Earth. I had an epiphany about a year ago where after all these years, it finally hit me. Everything comes from the Earth. Everything, even if it's synthetic, there was an Earth beginning to it. And he's harnessed the power of that in writing this fabulous book, and also the characters and the PC game that comes with it and the music. The author is Jack Shoop, and he's back with us. Hey, Jack, how you doing today?
Hey, Steve. Happy Earth Day to you, too. And thanks for having me on.
Happy Earth Day. Yeah. It's the older I get, the more I appreciate things like the earth, trees, just nature and all of that. But now I see even more why people say, hey, getting back to nature, because it does so much for you, for your soul, psychologically, energetically. This book has a lot of great characters. We've been looking at it chapter by chapter. We're going to dig into chapter 4 today. What's in store for us there?
Well, the reason I chose to love to write about nature and how Beaver Creek Meadow is all coming together. We've seen how Jack was growing up from a seed to a farmer, and we've seen the Fred Beaver, how he works the dams, and we met Sawdust Miller, how he works the forest. But it's amazing to me, just like you said earlier, how the earth, nature, provides everything that the animals and humans need. I mean, everything is there. Everything we need for life is there. So we just need to help it. Like for instance, there's oil on every plant or on every continent. Everything we need that nature has, which I don't know who designed it, but I mean, if we need it, it's there. Like for instance, now we need batteries, right? So now they're finding lithium everywhere. So that's kind of amazing to me to, like you said, every nature provides everything we have. So today on chapter 4, we're going to talk about Pierre Loutrou. So let me just show some pictures here. Here's Pierre Loutrou. He's a red-tailed fox, and you can see he's sitting on his rear end looking at the creek. He's the smart one in Beaver Creek Meadow. And here's his power wheel. Okay, that's the power wheel that's been around forever. And here's one long for the dragonfly. So when we left Sawdust Miller, he made the lumber for Jack's house. Now Jack needs to power up his farm to run it. And Jack realized that Jack gets to live in this beautiful meadow, but he has to do his share of work. So he needs to get his farm together. And so Sawdust Miller told Jack that Pierre Loutrou is one smart fox. We all trust him. We used to burn all kinds of stuff to make power. Then one day, Pierre Loutrou set us down and said he knew how to use the sun, the wind, the water, and other parts of nature to make power. His name used to be Pierre Le Fox, but after we learned that he wanted what's best for for our meadow, we started calling him Pierre Loutrou. So Jack Sprout, sometimes I say I, sometimes I say Jack Sprout. So, it's intertwined there. So, because I wrote this in first person. So Jack went up to talk to Pierre Loutrou and find out about powering up his farm. So Pierre said, well, I see you got the biggest green ears I've ever seen. So you must have big, whoops. Did I lose you?
Yep, I got you. We still see you.
You still see me?
Yep.
Okay. Anyway, so Jack went up to talk to Pierre Loutrou, and it said, yeah, well, you got big ears, so I guess you're a good listener, so I'll tell you what you need to know. He said, first, you're going to need to feed your plants, drink, shower, and wash clothes. We'll build you a tall wooden windmill with big fan blades. Then the blades will turn the pump and pump water up from the well. You'll need a big tank to store water when the days the wind doesn't blow, because it doesn't blow through the canyons every day. So then Pierre said, now we're going to need to heat your farmhouse and your greenhouse. So he said, what we use here in Beaver Creek Meadow is called a passive solar design. In other words, the passive solar is where you create your building facing the sun. So the sun helps to light up and heat the homes. We use solar glass panels to heat our water. We call it solar because we use the energy from the sun. Jack Sprout said, I never heard of that. So anyway, he explains to him that the power of the water and his water wheel. He uses the wheel. In other words, for power, he like the boat. The Captain Barry has a tugboat. He'll bring his boat up to Pierre's power wheel, and Pierre will wind up his spring. So in the boat, we use a spring. So he winds up the spring in the boat, and that operates the boat. Okay. So Pierre's using solar power energy. He's using passive solar energy, and he's using the power of the water wheel. And so he's introducing new ways of power for Beaver Creek Meadow. So he tells him that there's a dragonfly called Wan Long who will make glass for his windows and solar panels. So that's his job, is to help out with that. And the sun shines through the glass, heats the water in the pipes, and keeps our homes warm and gives us hot water. So they've created their own little solar panels, solar power. And Jack asked Pierre True, he says, how did you learn all of this? How did you learn about solar power, about passive solar, and learning to use the power of the water wheel? And Pierre says he's always thought about helping others, making life easier, and what works well tomorrow and for the future. Pierre said when he was a little fox, him and his fathers and his friends would cut down trees for wood to burn in the fireplace, which, that's just the way it was. And he loved the smell of the wood burning. And that's his friends went and played in all the trees. But Jack Sprout had a favorite tree where him and his friends would play. And they had a little clubhouse there where they talked about very important things. But he went to his clubhouse one day to meet some friends and ran down the path and was ready to jump on his limb. And as they rounded the corner, he found something terrible. Someone had chopped down his tree. He couldn't believe who had done such a mean thing. And he asked around who cut down the tree, and he found out it was his own dad. And he told his dad, what do? You cut down my favorite tree? And his dad said, I'm sorry, I didn't know that was your favorite tree, but we needed wood to burn for the house. So Pierre got to thinking, he thought that if we cut down all the trees just to make our houses warm and cooking, pretty soon there wouldn't be any more trees. So he didn't like that idea. So one day he was at Wan Long's house, the glass blower, to see if he had any ideas. And he was standing under the glass roof, and it got very hot. So Wan Long told him that when the sun shines through his glass roof and glass walls, it heats his house without having to burn any wood. So anyway, that's where Pierre got the idea. So he decided to use that idea all over Beaver Creek Meadow. So they started using solar power. Anyway, that's what we need to do, of course, is to use more alternative sources than just wood. I read the other day that the air quality in the world is getting better. And that's just because... when you think of pollution or whatever, you always think of the United States. But this article says that the air pollution is getting better around the world, mostly and I don't like to use the word poor, but mostly in undeveloped countries, because believe it or not, they're still using dung, you know what that is, and cardboard and stuff to heat in their houses. And the air quality inside the house is worse than the air quality outside the house. So when we quit using those types of things to burn, air quality just improves naturally. So they use more electricity and more natural gas.
Now I'm curious, in this chapter, one of the main characters is the fox. Why'd you pick fox? Any particular reason?
Well, it's just traditionally known that a wise old fox. I just went on that
Gotcha. Okay.
because within the animal world, foxes are considered smart. You know what I mean? They jump in and get your chickens, and they get out. They survive.
Mm-hmm.
They survive all the people trying to eat them, and they survive the farmer's wife trying to kill him. And they're just smart. They know how to open gates and just that's kind of traditional.
Sure.
I didn't know I'd find a picture of a fox sitting on his rear end looking at the creek though. That kind of fit right in. I get these pictures off of Shutterstock, and they have lots of pictures.
Isn't it amazing? You have a dragonfly in the story. Wan Lung.
One long, yeah.
What does that represent? The name?
Well, he's he represents the ancestors, the feeling of ancestors, time gone past. He's brought an ancient art of glass blowing to Beaver Creek. He was an artist, and he was blew glass. Glass comes from sand, so he learned how to collect sand from the beach, melt it at 3,000 degrees, and blow glass. He learned it from his ancient ancestors. It's kind of that feeling. And then one day, his name was Wan Long, and then one day, he was blowing glass, and he sneezed, and he inhaled the hot fire, and he blew out a lung. So then they changed his name to Wan Long. You know how
Yeah.
kids are.
Now I got it.
They changed his name to Wan Long, and then he was out. Cobley is the artist. I haven't introduced Cobley yet, but he's the painter in Beaver Creek Meadow, and he was out. How artists do. They go out and search for new inspiration. And he met Wan Long one day, and he told him about Beaver Creek Meadow, where everybody has their own part of nature to live in and takes care of that part. And Wan Long wanted to be part of a community like that. So he came to Beaver Creek Meadow, and he lives just north of the wetlands.
Yeah, I find the dragonfly a hated insect, and they don't do any harm as far as I know. Even as a kid,
No.
I used to look at the dragonfly. Oh my God, look at that thing flying over here! Oh, take cover! And there's no reason
Yeah.
to. And actually, they fly very like a helicopter, like they're
Yeah.
different,
Yeah.
and alarming. But as far as I know, right, they're wonderful creatures.
No, and they don't live very long.
Hmm.
They don't. I don't know if it's a month, 2 months, or whatever. They don't live very long. But I don't even know what their purpose is really. I really haven't studied them that much. I don't know that. I don't think they pollinate or anything. Maybe, but yeah, they're very helicopter-like. But I just think I used to have a job. It's kind of funny that you say that, but I used to work the job with helicopters, believe it or not. Yeah, you brought that up.
Huh.
But we had a helicopter tour company on the Big Island where I lived, where I worked. And then we had a reservoir up the hill. And the dragonflies, I guess, would breed in that reservoir, and they'd come down and they would fly in front of our little shack that we had. So I saw dragonflies and helicopters every day at work. So funny that you mentioned that. But yeah, that was I wanted to fit those in there because of that experience I had watching them when I was at work.
Do you find a lot of the things that you include in the story, Jack, are connected loosely to you, experiences you've had even as an adult or even as a kid?
Yeah, yeah. I think you have to because I look at like science fiction. Okay, those guys that do science fiction.
Sure.
I don't know how they fit. I don't know. I don't know where they get that. I mean, how can you write about something that hasn't happened?
Right?
How can you write about the future? I don't know how they do that. So when I start writing about stuff, I think of stuff that's happened to me or someone I know, and then I
Right.
can relate to it that way. So that's pretty much how I write. Every character in this book has something to do with me or mostly me or a friend or somebody that's done something or the name. Uh, I am 74, so I've had a lot of time. you know,
Sure.
there's a lot of time gone, a lot of time's gone by, and I've seen quite a few things. But this dragonfly, like I said, I would be at work, and they would come down and fly in front of our little shed where we were, and pretty entertaining. And like you say, it's a unique character, unique insect. And I don't like you say, why are they here? I don't know, but they're here, and I enjoyed seeing him every day. So
And same
that's
thing,
pretty much,
the praying mantis. That's there's another
yeah,
one interesting insect. I remember my grandmother back in the day used to always say, "Don't harm them and don't kill them. The police will come." She was just trying to get me to not touch them. Not that I wanted to,
yeah.
or there was some kind of they were protected. I don't know if that was even true back in the day. But they remind me of the dragonfly, where they're just kind of doing their thing.
Yeah.
They look threatening, but they're really not.
Yeah, they're not. I don't know if maybe we're just, conditioned
Conditioned.
to
Yeah.
not like things flying around over our head, or they think we're going to get, attacked or whatever. But
Yeah, or the fear of the unknown. I know what a
yeah,
bee does. A bee, pollinates flies and can sting you. When was the last time somebody got bitten by a praying mantis? I don't think ever.
I don't think, yeah,
Get stung by one? Don't know anybody that has. Even the dragonfly. Aside from it
yeah,
dodging your head and it maybe scaring you for a second, I don't know one person that's ever gotten stung, bitten, or harmed by a dragonfly.
no. If you ever looked up close at their face, that one of the ugliest creatures ever.
Well, I'm not gonna deny that. what
So
what
they
do you
look
want?
beautiful, but up close, like, oh my gosh.
What's your takeaway in this chapter in the book? What do you want people or children to really think about after reading that chapter?
Well, everybody loves Pierre. Um, like I say, his name used to be Pierre Le Fox, but when they found out that he wants what's best for the meadow, they call him Pierre Le True. So telling the truth is very important. Worrying about other people is very important. Not that you have to be totally just go out and help everybody all day, but you gotta have this idea that you want what's best for the community. So that might just be you doing your particular object, your particular hobby, or whatever it is, and what you're doing is helping. Or you can go out and actually help other people. But I want people from this chapter to realize that it's about the whole community, and think of that when you're going through life. You're trying to help out everybody. Not necessarily telling people what to do, but just trying to do things that help out. So he wants to help out people heat their homes. He wants to help out people move their boats up and down the river without harming the nature. I mean, without harming the meadow. That's his whole concept, not to harm the meadow.
And I just realized every chapter ends with these words: "Until next time, keep growing, Jack Sprout." Pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's within the book, each chapter fades out. You can kind of get the idea now that each chapter. I didn't realize it, but each chapter is one day. I didn't even know that until I was done. After I got the books printed and back in my house, I didn't realize that each chapter was one day.
Wow.
So he wakes up, he needs something, he goes towards that person to help him. He has an adventure along the way, and then he finds out what that person does, and they promise they'll help him, but they all tell him, "We'll help you, but you got to do the work yourself." And then he goes home. And then the chapter fades out, little reminiscence of what happened in the chapter, and then what's going to happen in the next chapter. So it kind of keeps you connected because each chapter is pretty different as far as the subject matter.
To your point, I didn't realize that every chapter was pretty much a day in the life of Jack and everything going on there within the meadow. If you were to write a follow-up book, and I'm sure you probably have thought about it. If you were to write a follow-up book, what would you focus on?
Well, I did write I have written a follow-up book.
Oh, okay. I wasn't even aware.
What's that?
I wasn't aware.
Yeah, the guy that invented the hydro flask, that metal can, the metal water bottle.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I got talking to him one time, and he said, you need to do an adventure story with what you need. Everybody's always telling you what you need to do, right? So I wrote an adventure story. It's 30,000 words, and it's called A New Look into an Old World. That's the title. And Jack Sprout and his buddy Captain Barry take one of Captain Barry's ocean-growing boats, and they just head out from Oliver Otter's beach. They love Beaver Creek Meadow, but they want to find out. They're tired, they're bored, they got everything working, now they need to do something else. So they go out and they find the center of the universe. How you like that? And then, which is turns out to be another island. And they're met on this island by a blue heron who's a tour guide. So he tours Jack and Captain Barry around this island, and he shows them how they can help nature even more. So they learn all of this, and then they go back to Beaver Creek Meadow, and they teach the people how to make Beaver Creek Meadow even better. They learn things like, it's fiction, so so for instance, one of the things they learn is putting out fire, forest fire.
Mm-hmm.
They use updrafts, and what they do is they shoot water up the updraft, and that takes water up in the sky, and the wind blows the water to the fire. So that's one of the things they learn. And they learn about water storage, to store water in tanks. They see a blue whale, they race an elk, they surf with dolphins, they get stuck in a wild fern hole. They see the desert bloom. You know what that is? All the flowers.
Mm-hmm.
The desert turns all color. So they see all these things, and they tie Jack up and throw him into a riptide, and scares him to death. And then they have the rope tied to the boat, so they follow him out, so he understands what a riptide is. Riptide, so he can warn people. So they learn a lot more about nature, so they can go back and help Beaver Creek Meadow work with nature even more. So that's kind of a little follow-up I did.
I had a thought here. Anybody that's connected to schools, libraries, I have two friends who are librarians in the New York area. Would they be able to advocate for the book to be in these institutions, schools, libraries?
Well, I can't answer that because schools have all these, it's got to hit this mark, hit that mark. It's got to create, I think so. There's a lot of information up here. We've only went through 4 chapters, and we've covered a lot of topics. But the school system will go, well, if you have this book in there, it has to reach this benchmark, and that's their benchmark. I don't know. I'm sure a school teacher could take this book and, make it fit all those benchmarks.
For sure. Once you read it and go deeper into the lessons, the insight, the information. And of course, we talked before about licensing the character as well.
Right.
But yeah, what's your website?
JackSprout.com. And if people want to get a hold of me, probably easier to be Jack@jacksprout.com.
Jack, always great having you on here. Love the stories and the lessons. My oldest my youngest is 17, but if I knew of this book, this would be one we'd be looking at. And especially my other one, he's 19. He was all about nature. He was, joined every nature group, to raise funds for our environment and all of that. Just good stuff. This is the books the way they should be in our schools now. I appreciate you being here today.
All right. Thank you very much for having me, and happy Earth Day, everybody.
Happy Earth Day. We'll be right back. Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Okay, Simon, what are you wearing right now?
Nothing.
That's right. And what do people normally wear?
Clothes.
Exactly. So now Mommy's going to teach you how to dress yourself. Clothes keep us warm, they look good, and if we go out without them, the neighbors will talk. So it's important to know how to get dressed. Here's how it's done. Underwear always comes first, name tag at the back, then pants, then shirt. Get the first button in the right hole, or you have to start all over. If you're wearing a tie, it goes over, round, through, and pull tight. Tuck your shirt into your pants and zip up your fly. Socks going first, then shoes right on right, left on left. With shoelaces, just take the ends, cross them over, switch the loops. The rabbit goes down the hole, pull tight, and you're left with bunny ears.
I love bunnies.
Good to know. Now remember, spots don't go with stripes, socks don't go with sandals, and if you've tucked in your shirt, wear a belt. Got it? Why are your pants on your head?
Most parenting is hard to do in just 2 minutes. But spending just 2 minutes twice a day making sure they brush their teeth is easier and could help save them from a lifetime of tooth pain. For fun 2-minute videos to watch while brushing, visit tumin2x.org. That's tumin2x.org. A message from the Partnership for Healthy Mouths, Healthy Lives and the Ad Council.